Hey, Falcons and NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL Jocks and Pigskins with Tom Pollen, our producer, Chris Smitherman, behind the scenes. I'm Dave Holcomb. Got another great show for you today. We're kind of, in waiting mode for training camp now, with mini camp wrapping up this past week for the Atlanta Falcons and a lot of NFL teams. But we have some off-season topics to discuss, some things out of that Falcons mini camp this past week. Some exciting things that Arthur Smith had to say about Desmond Ridder. That's where we're going to start today. But we want to address the topics that you might like us to get to as well. So send us your comments if you're watching live, and you can tweet at us after at TJ Pollen, at DM Holcomb.
Yep, absolutely. What do you want to hear about today? It's kind of an open show. I mean, we're past the silly season. We've had the first OTAs, and we all know what we can expect from OTAs, but it's going to be an interesting time till we get up to training camp now. One thing that I did notice is Terry Fontenot did say that basically the full 53-man roster is not on this Falcons team yet. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Falcons continue to do this summer.
Yeah, they've opened up a little bit of cap space more than people thought they would have with some of the releases that they did. Mike Davis, maybe a couple other players. So they're kind of middle of the road right now in salary cap space, and can't do anything major with $12 million of space about. But they could add a player or two. And I guess that's what Fontenot's talking about in terms of, the 53 guys aren't yet there.
Well, the thing is, and from what I've been reading, I think a lot of people are expecting them to bring in some more linemen before training camp begins, and maybe drop one, a couple of the wide receivers that they're hanging on to. I think I've read where they have like 13 pass catchers on the roster right now. So,
which is a good thing at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a position that's in flux right now for the team, and they don't have a lot of answers there other than Kyle Pitts. They obviously hope Drake London is going to be part of the solution, but they kind of have just added as many bodies there as they can at reclamation projects, if you will, and hope that a couple of them work out.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you can do right now. And there is probably another move they can make if they want to with the $12 million. But you got to remember, you got to save some of that cap money for the regular season.
Sure.
Because you're going to have injuries.
Yeah.
So, there's always – you can't just use it all now and say, okay, we're finally $100,000 under the cap and you're in week one. That doesn't quite work for you.
Sure. Yeah. They can't spend all of that 12 million, but it's probably they might have 10 million more than what we thought they might have.
Oh, they have a lot more than what I thought they might have. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll get to, we already got a couple of questions coming in. That's great. We'll get to those. Yeah. We're going to start the show with what Arthur Smith had to say about Desmond Ridder this past week. But before we get to that, I want to remind you of our sponsor. Today's show brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app in your app store. Use that promo code that we have, ASU, after you download and you sign up. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. Free money for you, and it's a great way to support our show on our channel on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. How can you go wrong? You deposit $100, you get $200 to play with. As I say every week, Prize Picks has plenty of options for you to choose from. You don't have to just bet on NFL. They do have PGA prop picks. They have NHL. We're going into the NHL finals. Yeah. And, Avs against the Lightning. We'll see if the Lightning can pull off their third straight Stanley Cup. I was surprised. The first time since the Islanders did it. That's a while ago. It's...
Well, I mean, three-peats are really tough to do. NBA, they're more common, but in the other three sports, they almost never happen. in hockey or baseball, or I mean NFL. It happened once before the Super Bowl era. So
right. So it's something. It's so you do have some a lot of options on Prize Picks. I was looking at lacrosse today, because they're expecting, the Cannons are playing the Redwoods today, and you got some very good props as far as, shots for guys like Marcus Holman, 7 shots. Is he going to be above or below? That it's kind of a difficult one because I think he averages like 7 shots a game, but I don't know what I'm talking about.
I was about to ask you, do you watch much lacrosse? Okay. You watch more lacrosse or more cricket?
I'm making, I'm just trying to say you got a lot of options on Prize Picks, so
Okay.
Go ahead and have fun with it.
Sounds good. We'll get back to football, the topics that we know.
Yes.
So mini camp this past week for the Atlanta Falcons. I think most of the teams or all the teams had mini camp either last week or this week.
Yeah.
And that's 3 days of mandatory practice for NFL fans that don't know. I don't think I really knew the offseason schedule until this year, to be honest. I don't pay super close attention to off the field or off-season workouts, at least before this year. I've been doing it more covering the Colts at heavy.com. They had their mini camp last week, Falcons this past week.
So how'd Matt Ryan look?
He looked great. I mean, the another team that has a young wide receiver core, different quarterback situation, but really young wide receivers, and the wide receivers are looking promising. And I would say the same thing about the Falcons. I like the way that minicamp seemed to have gone for them. Just reading some of the quotes and reports from media people this past week.
Right.
And the number one quote, I think, came from AtlantaFalcons.com, and it was Arthur Smith on Desmond Ridder, the rookie quarterback from Cincinnati. The Falcons picked in the 3rd round. Right. And basically, the biggest meat of the quote was he's light years ahead of most young quarterbacks in terms of playing from the neck up. And I love Arthur Smith's sentence right after this. He says, "I will give him that compliment." It's like Smith doesn't want to be too much praise for the young quarterback. He wants to keep working hard. I guess there's 2 different things you can take from that quote and maybe the sentence of the quote before what I just read. Is Smith is impressed with the mental part of the game for Desmond Ridder, which is great, especially from a young quarterback. And that's, so much of quarterback today is the mental aspect. That's why Tom Brady's playing at 45. But I think you could also look at that quote and say Ridder doesn't yet have the physical traits or isn't up to speed physically wise to be an NFL starting quarterback yet. Maybe he'll be there by September, but he's not there right now.
So you're thinking maybe a backhand compliment. Like, he's looking for something positive to say about his young quarterback.
Well, I think he was genuinely, I think he's genuine with his compliment there, that he is up to speed mentally. But that doesn't mean he's going to be the starting quarterback. It's my takeaway from the overall quote.
I think no matter what happens, you're going to see Marcus Mariota start. And the main problem with Marcus Mariota is how long is he going to stay on the field? So you might need Desmond Ridder fairly quickly. You never know. But, I wouldn't read into that he says Marcus Mariota or Marcus has major competition. I'm not going to say he doesn't have competition. Doesn't have major competition going into the training camp. But, it's a good thing to say. It's a good thing you want to hear that your rookie quarterback's picking it up, that he's getting the terminology down, that he's getting the sets down. Ridder also said that he's surprised he's picking up as fast as he is. So, he figured he'd struggle a little bit more than he has, but he's been doing very well as far as picking up, the checkdowns, the different terminology, the sets, and it's all good. Everything you want to hear about your rookie quarterback out of minicamp.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, the coach. Do you want to hear great things about you or about your players? Sure, of course. You want to hear that everybody's doing well in minicamp. But Frank Reich had this quote a couple of weeks ago. It's minicamp. You can't take too many things away from minicamp when the guys aren't in pads.
Right.
So it's great that Ridder looks good so far, but obviously a lot to prove still in training camp to earn the starting job. And I agree with you. I think Marcus Mariota starts the season.
Yeah, he has to. I mean, he's experienced. He's the guy that you're hoping kind of reverts back to somewhere near his second overall draft pick status. And I would seriously doubt that myself. Personally, I think after about 3 years, you see what a quarterback can do. You get a good idea of what a quarterback's capable of.
Yeah.
But, I know there's a lot of pie in the sky hope out there that maybe Mariota finds it with the Falcons, kind of like Tannehill found it with Smith and the Oilers. I think that a lot of that kind of wishful thinking has been going through Falcons fans' heads too.
Well, I mean, the Titans, I don't know. I think they were thinking about replacing Tannehill this past year. So,
well, he had a rough playoff. They had the best record in the AFC last year. God, I'm going way back.
They did. The quarterback also threw a pick in the final minute of a fourth quarter game when it was tied in a home playoff game. It's third pick of the game.
Yeah, I know. I get that. I understand that. I'm not arguing that.
I get what you're saying, that with the hope for Mariota. I think the best hope, though, is that he's a bridge quarterback to whoever is whoever is the future starter. I mean, I really don't think Mariota is the future with the Falcons.
Neither do I. Neither do I. I don't think they signed him as the future.
Yeah.
He's the bridge quarterback.
They're hoping Ritter's the future.
Yes.
At this point.
That's what they're hoping. Right, exactly.
I know I think a couple mock drafts for next year came out already yesterday, and I didn't see who the Falcons were taking in any of those mock drafts. It doesn't mean anything. Might have been a quarterback. That would be a popular pick, I think, right now for the Falcons going into next year. I've heard that from some fans. But at this point, the team hopes that Ridder is that future quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. 4 years, he played a full 4-year career at Cincinnati and, showed a lot of promise. So, yeah, I think the Falcons really are hoping that they struck gold in the third round with a quarterback. And it happens. I mean, not all top quarterbacks in the NFL were taken first round. We're taken within the first 10 picks. It helps. You see a lot of guys, that way it does help. But, Russell Wilson was like a 5th round pick. So, I mean, you do find guys who.
I think he was a 3rd round pick.
A 3rd round pick. Yes, you're right. So
he's the best example of a late, not super late, but a day 2 pick for the quarterback that ended up being, a Super Bowl winning signal caller.
Yeah. So, we'll see what.
I guess other than Tom Brady, obviously Tom Brady.
Well, we're not talking about Tom.
But I'm kind of excluding Tom Brady. I know he was a 6th round pick, but more recently, a top guy that wasn't a 1st round pick who was a quarterback, Russell Wilson, I think is the best example.
Yeah, exactly. And Russell Wilson, I think, is right now on the way to a Hall of Fame career. So it's going to be interesting to see. Again, this isn't a team you really expect to do a lot next year. So, you can go ahead and throw the dice with Marcus Mariota and see what you have in this rookie quarterback. See how he develops. I mean, you get a season under a coach who's fairly good at recognizing quarterback talent, developing quarterbacks. So again, go back to Tennessee, what he was able to do with Tannehill when the Titans picked him up. So
very true.
It's going to be interesting to see. I think Smith has that kind of offensive philosophy, more of a tight end style guy who wants to run the tight ends down the seams, run a little through deep routes. It's going to be interesting to see how he manages to use Mariota and Ridder when we get to the preseason.
Williams says that Desmond Ridder might start. I wouldn't want to crush that optimism right now for you, William. I think he might start. If I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would say Mariota will start the season. But I think Ridder will be in there starting by November, and I'm not ruling out Ridder starting the season either at this point. So we'll see how training camp goes. He looked good.
It's all going to come down to training camp. I think Ritter's going to have to really blow the doors off the offense to get that kind of, to beat out Mariota as the starting quarterback. But again, Mariota has shown, difficulty staying on the field. So at some point, I mean, even if you don't see Desmond Ridder week 1, you're probably going to see him start at some point. It's just the way it is.
I think that's, I would definitely bet on that happening, that Ridder starts. I think he'll start at least 5 games.
Okay, so we got the over-under on Desmond Ridder starts at 5. Dave has just set the over-under.
I'll go over, so I'll get more than 5.
Go over. Okay, yeah. I'll go over too, because Mariota has not shown the ability to kind of stay on the field. But we'll see how his offensive line develops too in front of him.
True,
that might help quite a bit. But I'll take the over on 5. So again, the official Jackson Pigskins above or over under on Desmond Ridder starts is 5. So anybody want to chime in on that? Feel welcome to that. Maggie T is on today.
Yeah.
And Mariota will be seasonal, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. This is a 1-year prove it type thing for Mariota. If he can prove it this year, then Falcons, as I say, it's the off season. You could speculate anything.
Sure.
Mariota's on a prove it. I think the Falcons hope that Mariota gets them through this season, and Ridder is the one who emerges as the quarterback that they want to have as a starter going forward. And
to your point about Mariota staying on the field, he hasn't started 15 games in a season since 2017. And this kind of shocked me. I thought he started at least 1 game in Las Vegas with the Raiders.
He did. Well, in Oakland with the Raiders.
No, he didn't. I'm on Pro Football Reference right now. He did not start.
He did not start that game?
No.
All right, but he played significant time.
I think you and I are thinking of the same game in 2020 against the Chargers. I think it was a Thursday night game where he came on and played majority of the game. Yeah, so he did play a majority of that game, but he did not start the game.
No.
And
then he went on injured reserve because I think he got injured during that game.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I think you're right. So, and he played well in that game, but I would say it's different having a defense prepare for you all week. And that was a short week too. That was a Thursday night game.
Yes.
So the Chargers weren't preparing for the backup quarterback to play with 2 days of practice. Right. So, maybe Mariota played well for that reason, in part for that reason. But I was shocked to look at his stats this morning and see that he has not started a game since 2019.
Yeah, that's what you got to look at is he never really established himself as the Titans quarterback, and he kind of played that backup role for Derek Carr, and couldn't stay on the field even in that backup role with Derek Carr. So it's iffy as far as what you're getting with Mariota. Can he blast back off again this year? I mean, that it's not costing you anything to because you're really going into a year where you expect to do a lot of laying the foundation for future seasons. This is not, with $63 million in dead cap, there's only so much you can do to get your roster ready for 2022. Right.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. It all comes back to that. And I think it goes, and I'll return to Maggie T's point of, Mariota will be seasonal. Mariota will be, I think, good enough to make the Falcons competitive in a lot of games.
Yeah.
And that's what I think you're hoping for as a Falcons fan when you look at that huge dead cap money.
Right. Yeah. Well, the problem, the thing is, that's the thing. You're trying to lay a foundation here, and you're hoping that you have a quarterback who'll get you through it. You're playing, let's see, they're playing the AFC West this year. So it's going to be a tough run.
Yeah.
And the NFC West. So, this is not going to be an easy season for the Falcons to get through. So, yeah, you're just hoping that you see a lot of improvement. And that's kind of what I was getting at a couple of weeks ago when Dave was off. Asking the question, what in your mind is a win for the Falcons this year? What makes a successful season? Because I don't think a successful season is necessarily the Falcons being 500 at the end of the year or the Falcons nailing down the 7th playoff spot. You're going to have to look at success in different increments than what you usually would like to do.
Yes. And I want to clarify for our fans. They play the AFC North this year.
AFC North.
They got the Browns, Bengals.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
And they have the Ravens too. But I mean, your point is still the same, though. I think
they got the Chargers on their schedule. That's what threw me. So but AFC North.
Your point is still taken, though, that the AFC North is arguably almost as tough as the AFC West. So it's a tough schedule for the Falcons. As far as success, I agree with you that you can't just look at the win total. I do think this is more of a rebuilding year. If you don't want to use that word, maybe reloading.
Nobody uses the R word anymore in any sport. It's amazing.
Well,
the Cubs refuse to use the R word, but a roster made up with the guys that they have right now. Of course, it's rebuilding. The Bears are rebuilding, but they won't use the R word. So nobody wants to use that R word. It's out of every coach's, every professional team's vocabulary.
And I don't think it should be. I would really argue that, I mean, as a fan, I can recognize that, you're not going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Right.
And if you're trying to win the Super Bowl this year, if that's the way you want to be measured, that you're trying to win the Super Bowl every year, then I'll rip you apart because you go 6-10 or 6-11 now.
Right.
But if the goal is to just build towards the future, then a 6-win season for the Falcons, even though they won 7 last year, is not a failure.
No, it's not. If you see some positives, if you see Drake London establishing himself along with Kyle Pitts as top receivers, then you've had a good year. If you see, Mad Mike gave me hell for not being able to pronounce his name a couple of weeks ago. Mbikete. their second round pick. If he shows strong as an edge rusher, if he shows strong as an edge rusher this year and starts, bringing and shows effectiveness, it's successful because all of a sudden, then the Falcons have an edge rusher that you can count on going into 2023, and you can start building on that.
I think the same. We're talking about the quarterback today and Ridder. I mean, if they come out of this season with full confidence that Ridder is their future quarterback, it's a successful season. It doesn't matter what their record is,
right?
Honestly, if Ridder looks good, even in losses, then and he's the starter, and you can draft a different position, not have to draft another quarterback next year, and you can take another edge rusher. You can shore up the offensive line. You can add another pass catcher in the draft, and not worry about quarterback. It's a successful season.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're doing the fans a disservice when you won't say the word rebuilding.
Yeah, I think so too.
Fans aren't stupid, all right? They know what they're seeing on the field. They know what a good team looks like. They know what a rebuilding team looks like. They're not stupid, and I think you're not doing the fans a service when you're trying to say, no, we're not rebuilding. We think we're playoff caliber. We're going to go after it. We're going to, get one of those seeds, and we're going to make some noise in the offseason and in the postseason. Well, maybe you do, but a lot of things have to go right for that to happen.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that being your goal. But the ultimate goal is to just improve the roster and build towards the future. Again, especially because the salary cap is so out of whack right now for the Falcons.
Yeah. $63 million of cap space is just killer. Right? There's nothing you could do with it. Now, they've done a great job getting themselves back to $12 million of free space, but they've had to make a lot of drastic moves to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's next year is when you really want to see them make some bring in guys who are going to be part of the next Falcons postseason team.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for. We're laying the foundation this year. Next year, they get the guys that you expect to take them to the postseason.
I want to ask you, our show or our channel historian that you are, Tom, did the Dallas Cowboys use the rebuilding word when they traded Herschel Walker in the early 90s? Did the Steelers use the rebuilding word when Chuck Knowles stepped into the Steelers room the first time and he said, in 3 years, maybe a handful of you are going to be here? He said that's what Chuck Knowles, his first team meeting for the Steelers, and Chuck Knowles would go on to be the first coach to win 4 Super Bowls. He stepped in and said, it's not that you're not winning because you're not trying or because you're or not practicing hard, whatever. It's just you're not good enough.
You're not good enough.
Right? Not good enough. And most of you guys are not going to be here.
Yeah, right.
And I think Andy Russell is really the only one that carried over from that really bad 1-win team.
That was a 1-13 team. Yeah. Yes.
Right. To make the first Super Bowl team for the Steelers.
And again, the Steelers had to win the coin toss to win the rights to draft Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah.
And you never just everyone guess who that coin toss was against. The other
Bears.
1-13 team that season, yes, the Chicago Bears.
That's right.
Yep.
So I don't see why those.
And you know why the Bears were 1-13? Because they defeated the Steelers.
Oh well, that should have been the tiebreaker right there. The Steelers got the first round pick.
They got the first round pick anyway. Terry Bradshaw's a legend in his own mind, and
Well, those are just 2 examples off the top of my head that I could think of dynasties in NFL history,
right.
And they started, at literally ground zero. They were really bad. Not bad organizations. The Cowboys were good before that, but bad in terms of they had a bad roster and they had to rebuild the roster,
right?
And it took time, and rebuilding takes time, and I think diehard fans know that. And I don't think you do a disservice. I think you do a disservice to them by trying to say that you're not rebuilding when you are.
Exactly. Don't insult your fans. As I say, if you're showing improvement, if you're showing quality on the field, they're going to be there. They will go. So, and I think that's the main problem with the Falcons is they're worried that if we say the rebuilding word, our fans won't come out to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We won't fill seats. We just can't use that word. Well,
I think it's the opposite is the issue, is that they don't admit they're rebuilding. So then they're sending the message to the fans that we're trying to win and we're getting blown out by good competition by 20 plus points every time we play a playoff team. This is last year.
Yeah, it was last year. Yes.
So then they think, well, I'm not going to come out and support a team that they're trying to win with and they can't.
Right.
If it was hey, this is what we're building towards something, and it's going to take some time, stick with us, I think more fans would show up.
So do I. I agree with you. Yeah, I can't say it better. Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
We have a question from Gary. He's bringing up a popular topic that we've covered the last month or so in Baker Mayfield. He throws his name into the quarterback conversation for the Falcons. I guess he's assuming if Marietta goes down or maybe doesn't have a great training camp and Ridder doesn't continue to progress, Tom, do you see the Falcons trying to entertain a trade for Mayfield?
Wow, Gary, you don't make it easy on us, do you? I would say why not? Because again, I'm not one of these Mayfield bashers. I think he's actually a good quarterback. I think he hurt his reputation. He hurt his overall. He hurt how he's looked overall around the league because he tried to play last year when he shouldn't have. He really didn't have any. He didn't have any snap on the ball. He didn't have any. He wasn't able to throw passes as sharp as he was before he got that, the shoulder injury. And I think he's a good quarterback. The Browns would have to pick up some of the salary. They would have to probably pick up half. I think Baker Mayfield's, I think, is at $18 million this year. Yeah. I think the Browns, and this is the problem with the Browns trading Mayfield all over the league, is that they don't want to pick up any of that salary. They don't want to eat any of that cap. And I think they're going to have to. But they would have to eat about half of that for the Falcons to become a realistic destination. So I think it would be a positive for the Falcons. I might be in the minority on that. I might get bashed for that in the comments soon. But I actually think he would be a positive step for the Falcons moving forward. I really do. And then you could have commercials, insurance commercials of Baker Mayfield moving into Mercedes-Benz Stadium. How fun would that be? Come on.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
I would agree with you that, he's an upgrade from what they have for sure. I just don't think there's any real possibility of it happening because of the salary cap. And I think the Falcons want to, give Ridder the opportunity to play. And if you get Mayfield, he's only on a 1-year contract.
Well, it's a prove it deal. It's a prove it deal. It's show me what you got. You got one season. Show me what you got.
Well, I get that, and I do like Mayfield, and he could prove it, and the Falcons have their quarterback, and that would be a successful season. As I said, if they have Ridder prove it that he's the solution, that's a successful season. But
yes, it is.
I guess it'd be more.
But if they don't, you're starting all over a quarterback again. But
well, that's the thing. My concern would be if you trade for Mayfield and he can, again, he's an average quarterback with, the average pass catchers the Falcons have in a below average offensive line, and you decide Mayfield's not the solution, then what do you do with Ridder? Do you draft another quarterback next year? Do you give Ridder the chance to compete with that guy? Or do you not draft a quarterback next year, even though it's supposed to be a great class? I think it would be better for the Falcons probably to just see what they have on their roster right now and then go from there.
Of course, Gary does make the caveat. He's talking about training camp way down the line. If what you're seeing out of your quarterback is not what you expected to see out of either of these guys, or if they start, they look not as effective as you were hoping they would, maybe not able to get you through the season as you were hoping they would Mayfield be a possibility? I don't think he's advocating you bring in Mayfield now and say, let's go.
True. Yeah, that is true. He said, I guess it's under the assumption that Mariota is injured.
The worst case scenario is, and to me, you can groom Ridder for 2 or 3 years. You don't have to. You could say this is the guy for the future. You don't have to play him immediately.
No,
they used to groom quarterbacks,
Well, I was just about to say they just don't do that anymore, though. I mean, Arthur Smith doesn't have 3 years to groom Desmond Ridder.
No, he doesn't. You're right. Jerry Fontenot doesn't either.
He's got to get to the playoffs before 2025. You can't wait for Ridder to be ready. Not to mention, the salary cap situation where you want to try and win with a rookie quarterback if you can, because he's cheap right now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's the other advantage is getting a guy who's on that rookie quarterback deal, because that tends to make a lot of difference with some teams. Yeah. Because you can spend that money in other places. At least you got a few years to spend that money in other places before you got to make the big commitment. Right.
Pantera is pushing back on Mayfield leaving Cleveland at all because he's going to have to start for the likely suspended Deshaun Watson. I seriously doubt that Mayfield ever plays again for the Browns.
He's never going to.
Regardless of what happens with Watson. If Watson never plays again and he goes to jail, which is an extreme case, or if Watson
depends on what punishment comes down from the NFL office.
But I'm saying it doesn't matter what the punishment is.
I agree.
If he's banned for life, or if gets one game, Mayfield is not playing for the Browns again.
No, he is not playing for the Browns. It's not going to happen. Mayfield and the Browns are finished. They want nothing. Mayfield wants nothing to do with the Browns. The Browns may say, "Hey, we still have you under contract for a year. You're here to play quarterback," and they could make it financially difficult for Mayfield next year if he doesn't play. But he's not going to play. That's just down to it. Baker Mayfield will not be with the Browns next year. There is not going to be any of that. There's no fixing that bridge is bombed. That's not just burnt.
Yeah, I completely agree. They already excused him from minicamp. He didn't have to show up. They didn't fine him. So I think the Browns realize he's not playing for them again. And the holdup with trading him is what you started the conversation with. It's the salary cap situation. The Browns want to roll all of their salary cap space that they don't spend this year into next year. I think I read that they can do that.
Yes,
and
they have salary cap space forward. Yes,
they have the most salary cap space in the league right now, according to Spot Rack. Yeah. So you think, just eat the money for Baker Mayfield. Well, what they want to do is they want to roll it in the next year when Deshaun Watson is costing a lot more.
Oh yeah.
So they want that space for next season. And that's the holdup in terms of trading Mayfield. They want the team that takes him to take the entire $18 million contract.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, you just brought up a part of this situation that nobody ever actually looks at. Watson is taking a minimal salary this year, $1 million salary.
Yeah.
he's going to be eating up the rest of that cap space next year.
Yes.
Because all the big money starts rolling through the Browns organization next year.
Right.
So, yeah, they don't want Baker Mayfield. They want to be rolling this money forward to try and keep building a competitive team while still paying Watson all that money. But I don't think they're going to get what they want. They've screwed up this offseason bad enough right now, so as it is.
Oh, of course.
They're taking a big backward step because right now I don't think Watson plays next year.
I don't think he will.
And
I mean, and then you're looking at him not have played for 2 straight years, and going into 2023, he's almost 3 years removed from playing in an NFL game, 2 years and like 8 months or something. Mm-hmm. So you don't even know if he's going to be the same player, and you're paying him the richest contract in NFL history. And more and more accusers come out every week. So absolutely, it's a disaster right now, that situation in Cleveland.
Yeah, it is. They made their bed. It's, they made their bed. It's full of alligators, but it's just, it's ridiculous to see. 2 years ago, this was a team on the rise, and they may not have a quarterback next season. They're going to have a heck of a time trying to find somebody to be the quarterback next season.
Well, they signed Jacoby Brissett. I think.
Yeah, I know.
The guy, so
he might be the starter.
Yeah. Last comment on Mayfield. Gary proposes another hypothetical. If the Falcons go 6-2 to start the season, Mariota gets hurt, do you entertain trading for Baker Mayfield at that point?
Why not? But again, the Browns are going to have to eat some of that salary. Yeah, I would say so because Ridder's still too young to really take over. But that's the absolute best case scenario you could see for the Falcons. Yeah. Is if they come out hot. I don't think that's going to be a scenario for the Falcons next year. So, Mariota gets hurt, Ridder comes in, they start seeing what Ridder can do. They start seeing what his skills are. Can he check down? Can he recognize defenses? Can he throw a deep ball? Does he have any touch? That kind of thing. That's what they're going to start trying to find out from Ridder if Mariota does go down.
The Falcons play 5 teams that had winning records in their first 8 games. 4 of those teams went to the playoffs. 2 of them were the Super Bowl teams. They played the Rams in their first 8 games, and they also play the Bengals in their first 8 games.
Yes, they do.
And that's not even counting the Browns, who, I don't think Watson will be playing, but I guess he could be. I really have no idea what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. So that one of the winnable games at this point is the Browns.
Yes.
And then the 2 other winnable games are Seahawks and Panthers. And the Seahawks are a very winnable game, but it's in Seattle. So it's still a tough place to play if you're the Atlanta Falcons going there. So
Seattle keeps insisting that they have a quarterback and a couple quarterbacks that they can use.
Well, so that's why you can't take minicamp. You take minicamp with a grain of salt,
right?
Because you're complimenting Drew Lock.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to believe much of what you have to say if that's what you're saying.
No, I'm not going there either. Drew Lock, I think we've seen everything. As I say, you get what you see. You get what you're going to see out of a quarterback for his career after the first 3 seasons, and I think we've seen everything Drew Lock can give you, and it's just not there. It's not there.
Well, regardless of if it's Drew Lock or somebody else playing, the Seahawks and Panthers are the juiciest matchups for the Falcons.
Yes, they are.
Go 6-2, they got to win 4 other games and win those 2. So it's, I hope they start hot and I hope they go 6-2.
So do I.
This is also a team that they haven't been above 500 since 2017 in the regular season. So to start 6-2, I think is probably an unrealistic.
It doesn't happen.
Very unlikely to happen.
So,
but yeah, keep your comments coming in, your questions. I want to circle back to one from Pantera at the very beginning of the show as we transition to other positions other than quarterback. Pantera asks, do you expect any good offensive line or defensive tackle signings? Tom and I were talking about maybe some free agents or trade possibilities before we went on the air. Tom, do you have any for Pantera at offensive line or defensive tackle?
I don't have anything for offensive line. The problem is at this point of the offseason, if a team likes their offensive linemen, they're going to keep them. You can't find them just anywhere. So you might be able to find a couple of projects out there, but you're not going to find you're not going to find a guy who's going to make an impact for you on the offensive line right now. He's just not out there. Offensive linemen, if they're good, they're sticking with their teams. So now I did read something interesting this morning, and it kind of goes along with the fact that Ryan Pace used to be general manager of the Bears, is now advising Terry Fontenot. Robert Quinn led the Bears in sacks with 18.5 last season. Did not show up for minicamp. He wants a new contract, and he's already on a 5-year deal. I think he's going into the 3rd year of a 5-year deal. And the Bears are saying no. Considering that Ryan Pace is in Atlanta, it'd be interesting to see if they try to make a deal for Quinn and bring him down to Atlanta. That's a possibility. Again, you have the salary cap issue. Robert Quinn is going to cost you, I think, $18 million. No. No. Yeah. What was? I'm going to have to go back and get his cap. But again, you got the same problem. Is can you fit him under the cap? And you're going to have to do some manipulating to get him under your cap if you bring him in. And do you really want Robert Quinn right now when you're considering you're not really ready to win yet?
Yeah.
Maybe next year is the time you might want to bring in a Robert Quinn. He's going to cause his cap hit is $17 million this year. So, I don't think that's the move for Atlanta right now. I think they have to see what they have on their roster. They might make some minor trades, but again, defensive line is kind of like offensive line. If they are any good, they're already signed. They're not out there looking for a market because teams understand how difficult it is to find these positions. They're just not out there right now. You got some older that you could say more broken down type tackles and guards. You got some young guys who haven't really proven it yet. So that's your options as far as offensive and defensive line. I think the Falcons are going to try a couple of defensive linemen, offensive linemen. As I say, most of the analytics I've read this week say that expect the Falcons to bring in more linemen, maybe drop a couple of these pass catchers now that they've seen minicamp, now that they've seen a little bit of what these guys can do.
Yeah.
But don't expect any kind of major impact to be made on the offensive or defensive line because they're just not there. They're not. As I say, if they were any good, they're already on somebody's roster.
How about an Eddie Goldman? I'm looking at the free agent defensive tackles because that's what Pantera asked about. And at the top of the list is Eddie Goldman at defensive tackle. We also have Brandon Williams, Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph, Starla Tuole, Larry Ogunjobi, Tyler Davison, who was in Atlanta the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the names that, big NFL fans will recognize. They're not needle movers, but as you said, nobody is that's available at this point, and Falcons wouldn't be able to afford anybody like that anyway. So
right, you're looking at some money for some of these guys. I mean, Sue is 35. Yeah, I mean, he was a big part of why Tampa played as well as they did, but why they won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. But he's 35 and he's nearing the end of his career. That's the move you want to make if you think you're Super Bowl bound this year. Now, Eddie Goldman came back last year after being out for 1 year. He opted out because of COVID. Players were allowed to opt out for a season. He opted out. He came back last year. He was not as strong as he was before he opted out for that one season. He was a tough nose tackle. This guy, was really tough against the run, really clogged up the middle, would be outstanding next to Grady Jarrett if you're getting the Eddie Goldman who played before he opted out. Now, if you're getting the Eddie Goldman the last year, he was getting run over quite a bit last year, and making tackles, way past, down past the line of scrimmage. This is, if you think you can get a good season out of him, yeah, he's the kind of guy you want to bring him in on a 1 year, prove it, and then, if he does prove it, go ahead and sign him for 2023, because there is potential there. With Eddie Goldman. A lot of these other guys, again, in their 30s, if you feel like you are, if you feel like you're playoff bound and maybe, you've got that outside chance of doing something in the playoffs, then you might bring in Linval Joseph, who I've always loved. Loved him when he was with the Giants. I always thought he was so practically invisible, but a guy that they couldn't have won without, because of how effective he was in the middle. So yeah, I would say, Eddie Goldman's probably your best bet as far as a free agent signing. And again, with Ryan Pace in Atlanta, they might make that shot. They might try it.
I think I agree with your take on, avoid any player over 30, because again, you're building for the future. Anybody that's these 32, 33, 35-year-old defensive tackles are not going to help you down the road. Bringing a guy that is kind of a reclamation project who's 28, 29, and that's Goldman is 28, Larry Ogunjobi's 28. The only other defensive tackle highly rated on this free agent list is Tyler Davison, who's 29, but I mean, the Falcons have seen
we've seen enough of Tyler Davison. Yes.
Yeah, so I don't think he's coming back. If there is a signing, Pantera at defensive tackle for the Falcons, I would say it's Goldman, but I wouldn't rule out Ogunjobi either, as he got the experience playing for the Bengals last year, got the experience going to the Super Bowl with them.
True, that could be a good possibility. Again, those are the kind of guys who are at this stage in the offseason are going to be looking for those 1 year prove it deals. Can we, show me something and we'll sign you to a long-term contract. If you can't show me something, then you're really not hurting anything, because you're not eating any cap space for next year anyway, because you're only signing these guys to a 1 year deal. So, and I'm looking at the left tackle list. I'm looking at the guard list. These left tackles are they're beaten up. They're done. I don't see it. Eric Fisher, 31.
Can't afford him.
No, Riley Reif has never really played up to his potential. Jason Peters is probably going to retire. There's no way Jason Peters continues to play. Dwayne Brown for Atlanta, 36. Yeah, these are just not guys that, again, these are guys that, you might see signed later in the season when injuries start catching up to teams. These are not guys that you want to bring in for your training camp. These are not guys that you want to see competing for jobs in training camp.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I would say Goldman is the best chance of really anybody that we mentioned, offensive tackles included, of being signed by the Falcons.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Today's show was brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app, sign up, and use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100 in the app. It gets you some free money to play with on Prize Picks. And then it also supports us and our channel, Atlanta Sports Unlimited, which has great Georgia sports content. The Atlanta Braves snapped their long winning streak against your Chicago Cubs yesterday, Tom. Cubs finally snapped their losing streak.
Yeah. Cubs snapped their 10-game losing streak, and they, in the process, snapped the Braves' 14-game winning streak.
Right, yeah. It's a very weird dynamic in that series at Wrigley this weekend.
Oh, the Cubs got destroyed by the Padres. I'm telling you. They just got torn apart by San Diego last week.
My favorite baseball stat of the last week, the Pirates went 1-9, and they gained a game on the Cubs.
I know.
And the Brewers haven't done that well either. I think they're 2-8 in their last 10, or a couple of days ago they were 2-8 in their last 10. And the Cardinals are running away from everybody in the NL Central. But if you want some more baseball Braves coverage, check out Atlanta Sports Unlimited. And we're going to wrap up today's show with some more around the league stories around OTAs, mini camp. I think my favorite is the Dallas Cowboys taking a day off of minicamp to go to Topgolf. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah. They took a day off of their mandatory minicamp to work on their team camaraderie. Your face is just priceless. I need to take a screenshot of that. And they took off practice and they went as a team to go play Topgolf.
Okay.
Mike McCarthy's decision. Super Bowl winning coach, Mike McCarthy.
Yes, Super Bowl winning coach. He's got one Super Bowl under his belt. And why not? The other thing about Mike McCarthy, though, is they got fined again. He got fined and the Cowboys got fined. And they're probably going to lose an OTA for next season because, again, and I don't know what about these coaches. They got to do these physical team drills and OTAs. They're not, that is collectively bargained. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Matt Eberflus got dinged for that during the first round of OTAs. The Bears lost an OTA for this year. Mm-hmm. So, because you're not allowed in pads during OTAs, and now no one-on-one drills, no what they used to call the nutcracker drill, where you'd have a running back going up against a defensive lineman in a confined space and seeing who could win against each other. That doesn't, you don't get that. That's long gone.
Right.
So, and the Commanders.
I'm going to bring them up. I saw the Commanders got dinged as well for the,
Riverboat Ron.
They've already lost to practice for next year.
Two for next year.
2 off-season practices, yeah.
Yeah. So, Ron Rivera, a disciple of Buddy Ryan, architect of that, 85 Bears defense. And Ron Rivera's out there and he's like, the hell with it. We're gonna play in pads. We're gonna play counter. You just can't do that. I get it. You're a hard-nosed coach. Mike McCarthy, you're trying to rebuild a reputation that, trying to show everybody that maybe you're more hard-nosed than you actually are. I've never been a fan of Mike McCarthy, as you could tell.
Yeah.
But you can't do these things. NFL does not allow it, and the collective bargaining agreement does not allow it. So, You guys got to watch for that. And it's surprising that you see coaches get, how do you think you're going to get away with it?
Yeah.
That's kind of what puzzles me. How do you think you're going to get away from it?
Well, I think I can't really say this for Mike McCarthy, but does Ron Rivera think, hey, I don't really care about next year. I got to win this year? I don't know.
That's a good point, Dave. That's a very good point. Maybe he is thinking that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I guess Mike McCarthy could think the same thing. I was going to say McCarthy's coming off a playoff season. I don't think he's in danger, but actually probably is. In Dallas, you're always in danger of being fired. So
yeah,
maybe Mike McCarthy's thinking the same thing, that I'm trying to establish something for this season. I don't care. I'll deal with fewer off-season practices next year.
If I'm here next year, yeah.
Right. If I'm here next year,
if
right.
I'm here next
right.
year.
If not, then the next coach can deal with it.
Right. So, I mean, well, he won 12-5 last year. I don't think he's on the hot seat yet. But
I wouldn't say he's on the hot seat, but I mean, weren't people talking about
he lost his wild card game?
Right, because they lost again in the first round at home.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a legitimate conversation could be had that McCarthy has to
win,
reach expectations this year, or he's gone.
Because general manager Jerry Jones just knows best, and he's going to
exactly. So,
which is why one of those reasons why the Cowboys don't win year after year is that you still have your owner as general manager, and that's just not a tenable situation.
Right.
Doesn't work. Never will work. Yeah, I know Mike Brown owns the Bengals, and they went to the Super Bowl last year.
Wow.
But look at how many bad seasons that they've endured before they went to that Super Bowl.
Yeah, you don't even have to bring up Mike Brown being a general manager, owner that went to the Super Bowl, because they were awful for years before that.
Look how pathetic they were. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that's where we're going to leave our show today.
Yeah.
A lot of great off-season conversations. You can continue the conversation with us at TJ Pollen, at DM Holcomb on Twitter. Chris, thanks for being here with us as always, producing the show. And Tom will be back next Saturday. I'm heading on vacation tonight. I will be missing the next 2 shows, but Tom will be here to give you his commentary on the Atlanta Falcons and the rest of the league.
Yeah, Tom's going to try and not steer the show into the wall and, leave debris all over the track. And so, we'll come up with some interesting things to talk about. Don't worry about it. It's always out there. This time of year, you just have to search for it a little bit.
Yep. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Tom will be back next Saturday.
Yep. Have a great week.